There's a question as to why many people object to avant garde cinema or can't really absorb it, while I more than welcome it. And this has to do with the fact that it's much more comforting to see things in the way in which you have always seen them, rather than to try to see them in a new way. There's something very comforting about dealing with the conventional and with the conventional way of seeing, and something very disturbing about seeing unusual things and things that may shock you. Hollywood and television are constantly giving us things that we've already seen. The most interesting films are precisely those that show things that have never been seen before or show things in a completely new way. And this is something that upsets many people or prevents them from appreciating what is being shown to them. I, on the other hand, prefer to be upset. And one of my main criteria, in fact, in looking at films and in writing about them is the unpredictability of what I'm seeing.
Experiencing content. Let's experience some content together, shall we? So, because you guys couldn't get enough of me talking about going to film school, I'm going to bring it back for the second episode of the series, which I now just declared is a series. Sure, we'll keep this going. And one of my favorite classes in film school, which I didn't think I would love, but I ended up really enjoying, was learning about avant garde, which is essentially the thing that people, I guess, are either totally unaware of or are petrified to know exists, because it is literally the opposite of what people want when they watch TV or movies. They want comfort, they want familiar structures and patterns, and they want the same characters, and they want the same sort of jokes, and they just want to sit down and relax and turn off their brain. And I love art because its ability to challenge and to not be so complacent, and to, I want to turn my brain on. I want to engage with things. I want things to surprise me and to shock me and to make me feel. And I feel like a lot of people are very averse to watching scary movies or to watching very sad movies because they don't want to feel those emotions. They come to, I guess, well, in this case, we'll use games and TV and film. We're not talking about paintings or music, but like even music. People come there because they want a particular emotion. They want a particular feeling. They want to come and they want exactly what they came there for, which I guess is fine. That's okay. You can do that. You can play a game to feel joy or happiness. You want to play a game and have it be fun. You want to watch Law and Order because you want the ending to be perfectly, gift wrapped with a nice little neat bow on top, and because those characters, you don't have, there's nobody new. It's a new case every week. You watch a sitcom because it's going to deliver exactly what it sort of has promised in the past. And avant-garde is the opposite intentionally. It is trying to subvert expectations. It's trying to break down form and content. So, like, why a thing is made and what it's trying to say is different than how it is made. Avant-garde is very interested in how things are made and the process of how things are made. Intentionally trying to make you feel, not through traditional or standard sort of means, not through regular storytelling. It is not linear. It is not normal. It is completely and utterly outside the box, and it is just important that avant-garde is different because it is trying to be different, and it is trying to expand the limits of art. And what you're seeing is a lot of just different films, Stan Brakhage and Stanley Kubrick, and I just sort of picked those two examples out of the air because you might have never seen a Stan Brakhage movie, and you might have heard or have had discussions about the ending of 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I think the reason why that movie stands out, decades later, is because it sort of initially gives you these traditional means of storytelling and a traditional story and characters, but then by the end it is completely sort of just phased into something else that is not explainable. So you have to talk about what you guys experienced, what it means, why did Stanley Kubrick do what he did, and how he did it, and why it was beautiful or why it was stupid. And those conversations are, for me, like what matters. And this is something that I find so interesting, is that video games have not really gone into the deep end of avant garde. Or, I mean, there are tons of examples, which I'm going to show you now. But for some reason, it's not a genre. It is not a discussed and analyzed genre. It's very weird the way video game genres work. There are walking simulators. There are, like weird art games, and then there's things that have different avant-garde tendencies, and there are things about them that I would think are avant-garde, but like just sort of get thrown into platformer or fighting game or whatever. And so there are all these amazing examples, and I really think that it's important to, I guess, initially start the conversation, which is what I'm trying to do now, but also explain why there are particular games that I really enjoy, and they work because they are avant-garde. So you might have seen footage of Flower or Journey, which are games that, they're not talking to you, they're not explaining things, you're not following characters, it's not dialogue, you're just playing, you're moving, you're exploring, you're feeling, and things happen, and there's different moods, and there's different visuals, and it is just, sometimes it's trying to intentionally subvert, and sometimes it's just trying to give you something different. And I have a friend who constantly makes fun of me because I like games that are trying to do something different and trying to bring new ideas. And I don't know why he chastises me. I guess because he just likes playing the same games, which again is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but I really think there's value in games completely trying to reinvent the wheel, or really trying to just show something that has not been done, or do something that no one had thought of, because that's how you sort of make progress. That's how you sort of evolve art, or a genre, or a medium, or a platform. You kind of keep going forward, not by doing what people did before, but by pushing the boundaries. And so one of the games that I really love from 2016 is Inside, which again, there's no people talking to you, there's no dialogue, there's no explanation. There are regular mechanics, there are puzzles to solve, there is platforming to do, and they sort of use those basic building blocks to piece the actual gameplay together. But as far as this weird visual style and the art direction, and there's not a plot, but there is story. There are weird themes sort of going on in the background. It's hinting towards dystopian futures and experimentation in the nature of humans, and there's some weird Big Brother analogies. There's like all these little tiny little nuggets that sort of make you think as you go along, but at no point do you get to sit and really like dig into it, which I think is great, because you can do that later. You don't have to do that while you're playing the game. You're always sort of moving forward. There's always momentum. And like its predecessor, Limbo, which had this cool like German existential, like black and white dreary sort of look to it, those are sort of influenced by the classic avant-garde isms, for lack of a better term. So there's like, Italian neorealism, and there's minimalism, and there's Dadaism, and there's all these different isms of people, postmodernism, of artists and musicians and eventually filmmakers who were just trying to do something different, like take a particular stance and an ideology and make something out of it, using particular constraints, or because they had a particular idea, or because they were doing it with a particular form. And so one of the games in 2016 I loved the most is a game called Virginia, which is initially about a FBI case, and you sort of follow along this plot of a missing child, and there's internal affairs, and like there are story beats to it, but by the end it completely just dissolves into this 2001: A Space Odyssey-esque. It's just weird moments, and you're not sure what's a dream, you're not sure what's real, and you're not sure what's connected, and it's not supposed to be linear, it's not supposed to be explained, it's supposed to just make you think and feel differently. And the game also has a particular stance about it, I guess an ism, which is no dialogue. No one talks, there are no spoken words, you read things, and you just get pure facial expressions, and you get body language, and And I think that is not only commendable and sort of amazing that they pulled that off, but I think it's terrific that they made that decision and then decided to tell the game's story and to really do everything in its power besides using traditional dialogue. And they use editing, and they use music, and they use jump cuts, and they do all these different techniques that has not really been used as core building blocks to the game, like the core mechanics of the game. Like, I mean, there's been editing before in cutscenes, and there's been music used. Sure, obviously, music is in almost every game, but they are not like the major things you sort of deal with. You're not grasping with those elements because normally you're playing a game and you're running and you're jumping and you're talking and you're beating somebody up or you're shooting somebody. But Virginia literally tells the story of this woman who's working in the FBI through cutting through certain events that it deems are not necessary for you to see, and by using music to really sort of give you an impression of what the character is feeling, what she is feeling. And it is so interesting in the games that take away player choice, and I know that games are amazing because they give you autonomy, they give you the option to make your character or to go anywhere or to do something or to choose what dialogue you're picking. But I also think it's very impressive, the games that work where they take away as many options as possible and they really sit you down and force you to do something. And I understand that can frustrate people, that can piss people off when you're playing The Last of Us and at the end it forces you to do something terrible you don't want to do as Joel, and the game ends and it doesn't really give you a clear resolution. But then you have to ask yourself, is this game bad because it did those things? Or is it trying to say something or do something that I did not initially think? Is it trying to say or do something that I didn't think a game could do? Is there a point I missed? Should I reassess this game? I feel like people are so quick to judge and sort of just toss things aside and not give it any thought and not deal with it. I, for one, am a person who deals with that in a lot of other areas of my life, like not giving another person a chance to share their opinion because I know they're wrong, or shutting things down, or saying I don't want to try that, I don't want to think about that, I don't want to deal with that. But games, if you sort of give them a chance and try different things, they have the ability to amaze you and wow you and really make you experience or feel things that you didn't think games could pull off or achieve. And I think if we really start to play more and make more and talk about Avant Garde games more, hopefully more traditional mainstream games will have more of those elements in them. They will really twist and contort how games are played and how they look and how they sound and how they tell its story. Maybe games don't need stories, maybe games don't need sound or music, or you can take away those mechanics and it's interesting to see what happens, because in other art forms, taking away things and repeating things and changing, and there's a lot of variation to the mechanics of painting and to music, and it's like you can really stretch and pull games like they're putty. I mean, they're elastic. You can really get a lot out of them if you just really start to shift and change and pull and evolve, and not give people a pick 10 every year because people expected pick 10 or pick 13 for their loadouts in Call of Duty. Again, not to yell at Call of Duty, I know that's sort of an easy punching bag, but like, you can pick something other than pick 10. You can put it in a mode other than zombies. You can really do whatever the hell you want. And I think that is the most interesting part of games. So I hope I gave you something to think about, game design-wise. I hope you look into Stan Brakhage and you look into Andy Warhol, which I guess is a little easier to digest because it's pop art, or jazz. Experimental jazz is great. It's not about the notes you play, it's about the notes you don't play, if that makes any sense to you. So there you go. I'm going to put my Twitter on the screen. Give me a follow if you want more random nonsense and rambling videos. And I'll probably keep churning these out, though. So thank you for watching and listening and opening your mind. Or maybe you closed your mind and you watched this whole thing thinking, what a fucking idiot, what an asshole this pretentious prick is. But whatever.